Hearing is a physiological process involving the vibration of sound waves on the eardrums and the firing of electromagnetic impulses into the brain. Listening, meanwhile, is paying close attention to or making sense of what we hear. Now, according to our textbook, even when we think we're listening carefully, we usually only grasp about 50% of what we hear. Now, after 24 hours, we can remember only about 10% of that original message. Now, there are 4 different types of listening: appreciative, empathic, comprehensive, and critical. We'll go over each one. The first type of listening is appreciative listening. Now, this is listening for pleasure or enjoyment, such as when we listen to music, to the radio, to a comedian, or to an entertaining speech. Empathic listening. Now, this is listening to provide emotional support for a speaker, such as when a psychiatrist or a psychologist listens to a patient, or when we lend a sympathetic ear to a friend. Comprehensive listening is listening to understand the message of a speaker, like when we attend a classroom lecture or listen to directions for finding a friend's house. Finally, we have critical listening. Now, this is listening to evaluate a message for the purposes of accepting or rejecting it, like when we listen to the sales pitch of a used car dealer, the campaign speech of a political candidate, or the closing arguments of an attorney in a jury trial. Now, there are a few causes for poor listening. The first is not concentrating. This is thinking about other things rather than focusing on what the speaker is saying. You can also listen too hard. Now, rather than try to remember everything a speaker says, concentrate on main ideas and evidence. You'll have a much firmer grasp on the overall message of the speech. You also want to avoid jumping to conclusions. Now, anticipating what the speaker will say does not constitute effective listening. By putting words into the speaker's mouth, you aren't at all listening to what they are actually saying. Now, we also jump to conclusions by assuming a topic will be boring, or deciding not to listen to a speaker with a viewpoint that might be different from our own. You also want to avoid focusing on delivery and personal appearance. By judging people by the way they look or speak, we aren't listening to what they say. You've probably already heard, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't judge a speaker by how they look. So how do we become better listeners? The first is to take listening seriously. Just like any other skill, good listening comes from practice and self-discipline. You need to commit yourself to becoming a better listener. Now, use the self-evaluation form to identify your shortcomings as a listener, and then make serious efforts to overcome them. You want to be an active listener. Now, this is giving your undivided attention to a speaker in a genuine effort to understand that speaker's point of view. Now, in order to be an active listener, you must resist distractions. Because we can think faster than a speaker can talk, it's easy to let our attention wander while we listen. Now, think about what the speaker is saying, making sure you understand the information and arguments. Listen between the lines. Engage nonverbal communication. And also, again, don't be diverted by appearance or delivery. This works both ways. Don't assume someone is a bad speaker or a good speaker based on delivery and physical appearance. You also want to suspend judgment. Even when you disagree with the speaker at the onset, listen to everything the speaker says, and then choose to agree or disagree. Now, as the book says, if you're so sure of your beliefs, you need not fear listening to the opposing viewpoint. If you're not sure, then you have every reason to listen carefully. You also want to focus your listening. Again, listen for the main points, as these are the most important aspects of a speech. Now, you should also listen for evidence, which is used to support the main points of the speech. Now, ask yourself 4 questions about the speaker's evidence. Is it accurate? Is it taken from objective sources, relevant to the speaker's claims? And is it sufficient to support the speaker's points? You'll want to listen for technique. Now, what methods is the speaker using to get the message across effectively? Analyze the speaker's introduction, organization, language, and delivery. And you'll want to develop note-taking skills. Now, when done properly, note-taking is an excellent method to help improve your concentration and keep track of the speaker's ideas.